Bali Principles of Climate Change Core Principles. We, representatives of people's movements, together with activist organizations working for social and environmental justice, resolve to begin to build an international movement of all peoples for climate justice based on the following core principles. Principle 1. Affirming the sacredness of Mother Earth, ecological unity, and the interdependence of all species, climate justice insists that communities have the right to be free from climate change, its related impacts, and other forms of ecological destruction. Principle 2. Climate justice affirms the need to reduce, with an aim to eliminate, the production of greenhouse gases and associated local pollutants. Principle 3. Climate justice affirms the rights of indigenous peoples and affected communities to represent and speak for themselves. Principle 4. Climate justice affirms that governments are responsible for addressing climate change in a manner that is both democratically accountable to their people and in accordance with the principle of common but differentiated responsibilities. Principle 5. Climate justice demands that communities, particularly affected communities, play a leading role in national and international processes to address climate change. Principle 6. Climate justice opposes the role of transnational corporations in shaping unsustainable production and consumption patterns and lifestyles, as well as the role in unduly influencing national and international decision-making. Principle 7. Climate justice calls for the recognition of a principle of ecological debt that industrialized governments and transnational corporations owe the rest of the world as a result of their appropriation of the planet's capacity to absorb greenhouse gases. Principle 8. Affirming the principle of ecological debt, climate justice demands that fossil fuel and extractive industries be held strictly liable for all past and current life cycle impacts relating to the production of greenhouse gases and associated local pollutants. Principle 9. Affirming the principle of ecological debt, climate justice protects the rights of victims of climate change and associated injustices to receive full compensation, restoration, and reparation for loss of land, livelihood, and other damages. Principle 10. Climate justice calls for a moratorium on all new fossil fuel exploration and exploitation, a moratorium on the construction of new nuclear power plants, the phase-out of the use of nuclear power worldwide, and a moratorium on the construction of large hydro schemes. Principle 11. Climate justice calls for clean, renewable, locally controlled, and low-impact energy resources in the interest of a sustainable planet for all living things. Principle 12. Climate justice affirms the rights of all people, including the poor, women, rural and indigenous peoples, to have access to affordable and sustainable energy. Principle 13. Climate justice affirms that any market-based or technological solution to climate change, such as carbon trading and carbon sequestration, should be subject to principles of democratic accountability, ecological sustainability, and social justice. Principle 14. Climate justice affirms the rights of all workers employed in extractive, fossil fuel, and other greenhouse gas producing industries to a safe and healthy work environment without being forced to choose between an unsafe livelihood based on unsustainable production and unemployment. Principle 15. Climate justice affirms the need for solutions to climate change that do not externalize costs to the environment and communities and are in line with the principles of a just transition. Principle 16. Climate justice is committed to preventing the extinction of cultures and biodiversity due to climate change and its associated impacts. Principle 17. Climate justice affirms the need for socio-economic models that safeguard the fundamental rights to clean air, land, water, food, and healthy ecosystems. Principle 18. Climate justice affirms the rights of communities dependent on natural resources for their livelihood and cultures to own and manage the same in a sustainable manner, and is opposed to the commodification of nature and its resources. Principle 19. Climate justice demands that public policy be based on mutual respect and justice for all peoples, free from any form of discrimination or bias. Principle 20. Climate justice recognizes the right to self-determination of indigenous peoples and the right to control their lands, including subsurface land, territories, and resources, and the right to the protection against any action or conduct that may result in the destruction or degradation of their territories and cultural way of life. Principle 21. Climate justice affirms the right of indigenous peoples and local communities to participate effectively at every level of decision-making, including needs assessment, planning, implementation, enforcement and evaluation, the strict enforcement of principles of prior informed consent, and the right to say no. Principle 22. Climate justice affirms the need for solutions that address women's rights. Principle 23. Climate justice affirms the rights of youth as equal partners in the movement to address climate change and its associated impacts. Principle 24. Climate justice opposes military action, occupation, repression, and exploitation of lands, water, oceans, peoples and cultures, and other life forms, especially as it relates to the fossil fuel industry's role in this respect. Principle 25. Climate justice calls for the education of present and future generations, emphasizes climate, energy, social and environmental issues while basing itself on real-life experiences and an appreciation of diverse cultural perspectives. Principle 26. Climate justice requires that we, as individuals and communities, make personal and consumer choices to consume as little of Mother Earth's resources, conserve our need for energy, and make the conscious decision to challenge and reprioritize our lifestyles, rethinking our ethics with relation to the environment and the Mother Earth, while utilizing clean, renewable, low-impact energy and ensuring the health of the natural world for present and future generations. Principle 27. Climate justice affirms the rights of unborn generations to natural resources, a stable climate, and a healthy planet.